week 4 of the course. I hope you all are doing well and keeping safe. As you know, we have completed with the module on muting skills, and I hope it was beneficial for all of you. Today, we will start with the second part of the course, which is the second half module, which is on communication skills and professional etiquette. Now, when we talk of professional etiquette, the first thing that comes to our mind for lawyers and for all law students is the art of having interpersonal skills and effective communication skills. So today in this lecture, I will be discussing about the importance of having effective communication skills, and I will also lay some emphasis on the importance of writing skills. You all know that as lawyers and as law students, it's very important for us to be articulate and to write well. So I will in this lecture also emphasize and discuss on writing skills, and especially the focus will be on how you should make your resume, how you should make your cover letter, your statement of purpose, because that is the starting point of your writing skills. You all know that resumes are the first impression which is created on an employer, and your writing skills start to reflect from that very minute. So I will try and explain you how you should be drafting your resumes, your cover letters, and statement of purpose. But before that, let us discuss briefly about the importance of interpersonal skills and communication skills for lawyers and law students. Now, we all have been communicating with each other all this while, and communication, as you all know, is the process of passing information to one another, and also the process of making your point across to a person, or making someone understand what your point is. So hence it is very important for you to be clear and coherent when you communicate with another person, especially as a lawyer. A lawyer has to communicate well with his clients, a lawyer has to communicate well with a judge, a lawyer has to communicate well with his colleagues. So communication is the key factor which determines how well a lawyer will do, or how well a lawyer performs before the court, or with his, or how well can he connect with the client, and so on and so forth. So communication, of course, is one of the factors which sort of maintains a good client relationship. And it is also needed to establish your professional circle, or your network, as they call it. Now, as a law student, I'm sure you would have participated in various debate competitions, or various extempore competitions, and various recitation competitions in schools, perhaps. And you all would have been aware that if you're able to communicate your point, even in a debate, to the judge, and if the judge is able to understand, then in that situation, you of course are on a better footing than someone who's unable to communicate freely what his point of argument is. So similarly, communication, of course, helps you to make a proper impression on your client, on the judges, and it also helps you in planning and coordinating the next steps that are involved. Now, whether it is communicating for a matter, or whether it is drafting a strategy for a case, it all depends on how well you or how effective you are when it comes to communicating the strategy to the client. Now, interpersonal skills is, of course, a part of communication. Now, when we talk of interpersonal skills, we refer to the soft skills which are involved. Now, interpersonal skills is the ability to interact well with the other person. Now, interpersonal communication skills, of course, act as a prerequisite when it comes to enhancing your productivity, or when it comes to coordinating well with an organization, or when it comes to maintaining a strong network of contacts, so to say. So, of course, someone who has a good hold on interpersonal skills, or as we say, soft skills, tends to be sort of more productive, or tends to create a little more impression as against someone who's a little, little laid back when it comes to interpersonal skills. Which is why, as much as it's important for you to communicate, however, it is also important for you to ensure that your soft skills are in place. Now, when I say soft skills, what I mean to say here is that one is to be able to fluently speak and communicate. However, the other is the manner in which you are
communicating your point. You have to be polite, of course, as a lawyer. You have to. Sometimes lawyers tend to get on the other side and they are rude, or they tend to be loud and aggressive because the profession is such. However, this course is, of course, going to tell you how interpersonal skills play a vital role when it comes to your impression before anyone. Now, it's not necessary that someone needs to be aggressive to communicate a point. You have to maintain a positive attitude. You have to maintain politeness in what you want to say, and which is when you will be able to sort of have a broader outlook towards problems in front of you. So, of course, interpersonal skills need to be focused well on. Now, uh, why am I emphasizing so much on interpersonal skills is also because, law as a profession requires you to build a very strong network. Now, you may be an extraordinary lawyer. However, if you don't have a close, or if you don't have a broad network, if you don't have clients, your entire potential goes for waste. So interpersonal skills play a vital role in improving your network, in improving your contact base. So of course, when you are able to communicate well, you can exchange ideas. You're more noticeable. How are you more noticeable? Because you are speaking well. You have an opinion when it comes to certain issues that you're talking about. You are able to grasp, or you're able to grab new opportunities which are in front of you. You of course are able to sort of impress the other person by the creative intellect that you have, or by the way or the manner in which you are able to sort of put across your input to somebody. So interpersonal skills definitely play a vital role in enhancing your professional network, and also your personal network. Of course, if you're able to communicate well within your family and friends, of course they take you a little more seriously, and they try and understand the background you're coming from. They try and understand the point you're trying to make. So interpersonal skills play a very important role in that sense also. Now, what is the importance of network building? Now, as I said, you may be an extraordinary lawyer. However, you need clients to sort of show your worth before the judge. If you don't have work, if you don't have clients, all your knowledge goes for waste. So it's very important to sort of build a network from the very start of your legal career, or for that matter, even if you're a law student, from the very start of your 5 years in law school. It's very important for you to start building a network. Now, how do you build a network, or who can be a potential person in your network? They can be your teachers, your professors, your friends, you people you meet in internships, your seniors at internships, or some your acquaintances. Perhaps you've gone for a moot court competition and you met a judge, and you start to have a conversation with that judge, or your opponents in a moot court competition. They can be your network, because what you need to understand is that all these people 5 years down the line will be the ones who will be getting you clients. I mean, who will be a way through which you can get clients, and who will be recommending you to a broader group of people, and informing them that, we know this person, he's a good lawyer, he's graduated from this law school, you should refer him for this work, or if you have a legal dispute, you should definitely go to him. He has some sort of an expertise in this areas of law. So the network that you start to build today is the network that will help you 5 years down the line when it comes to seeking some advice, professional help, some guidance, clients, anything for that matter. And as I've already mentioned to you in this slide, that it of course helps you in your career graph, because these are the people who will come or who will benefit you later in life. You can always approach them for a career opportunity. You can always sort of have a long-lasting relationship with them, as today they might be today they might be your opponent in moot courts. Tomorrow they might be working in the same circle, and they can be your potential colleagues for that matter, or maybe somebody can be your potential client. So it's very important for you to understand the importance of network building. So the point that I'm trying to communicate here, and it's very important for all of you to sort of focus on this, is that interpersonal skills are important for law students and for lawyers, because not only do they reflect on how you conduct yourself, but they also help you build a very strong network of people. And this network, as I just mentioned, is going to be very important for you 5 years down the line. All right. Now, like I said, I would also lay some emphasis on writing skills. Now, when we talk of writing skills, I mentioned to you in the beginning of this lecture that as a law student and as a lawyer, you are supposed to be very articulate with what you want to write. All right. These writing skills, of course, are tested are tested when you are making a draft, or when you are making a contract, or when you are preparing a petition or a reply or any such thing. However, you have to understand that these writing skills go way back, and the first point of impression which is created is by way of our resumes, or by way of our drafting of our cover letter, of our statement of purposes, because an employer will definitely not see a draft or a petition before he hires you, right? He would see a writing sample, or he would see your resume, or he would see your cover letter, or he would see your statement of purpose. So hence the importance of writing skills are being discussed as a part of this course. And today, while we will be discussing various components when it comes to writing skills, today I will only be touching upon the importance of a resume, or a curriculum vitae as they call it. Now, what is a curriculum vitae, or what is a resume? Now, this is nothing but basically a document which is giving a brief description of what all you have done in your life, starting from your education, your qualifications, your post qualification experience, your internship experience, your extracurricular activities, your co-curricular activities. So this is one document which is giving the prospective employer a list or a description of whatever you have done in the 5 years of your law school. Now, as they rightly say, resumes are built over time. They are not built overnight. All right. So if you think that you'll be able to curate your resume in a span of overnight sort of a duration, it's not possible. You have to work towards your resume from the very beginning. Now, when I say from the very beginning, I mean to say you have to start working towards curating your resume from the minute you enter law school. It's very important, because at the end of the 5 years, this is what you will have to present before an employer. All right. Like I said, that when you talk of a resume, a prospective employer wants to know a lot about you in those 2 pages. Now, he wants to know how much have you put in the effort in these 5 years to curate, or to describe what is written in these 2 pages. All right. So it's an art. And again, you have to be articulate enough to sort of put all your achievements in those 2 pages of resume. So, as I've already mentioned on the slides, the resume shouldn't extend 2 to 3 pages, depending upon the age, experience, and achievement of a person. Of course, this is the industry practice, as I'm mentioning. The 2 to 3 page practice is the industry practice. However, of course, it gets difficult as you grow in your profession. Now, if someone who is, say, 10 years or 20 years in the profession, of course, would have done a lot of work, and would have a lot of professional post-qualification experience. So it may get a little difficult for that person to sort of, put everything down in 2 or 3 pages. But for you, if you're a law student who's going to graduate from law school, or if you're a lawyer who's listening to me as right now in this video, always make sure that your resume should cover the key achievements that you have gained in all these years, whether it's a span of 5 years, 8 years, 10 years, no matter how many years of experience you may have. However, the idea of the resume is that you should cover the key achievements that you have gained in all these years, and the key experience that you have, the industry relevant experience that you have gained in all these years. All right. Now, let me explain you the various components of a good resume. Now, of course, I will definitely show you a sample of a resume and how it looks like, but let me just tell you various components of a resume. Now, a resume starts with personal details, then it has the academic performance, then it also refers to the area of interest. Then you should mention your internship experience if you are yet to graduate, or your work experience if you have already graduated. Now, for those who have already graduated, you can also mention some key internship experiences depending upon how long your resume is getting into. Of course, your resume also has to have your co-curricular activities, your extracurricular activities, and any position of responsibilities that you may have held. Now, when I talk of position of responsibilities here, what I'm trying to say is that maybe some people are very active in their college life, and they are the member of the cultural society, or they're the member of the placement cell, or of the debating society, or of the moot court association. So these are key responsibilities which you can highlight in your resume. Now, what all should you cover in your personal details segment? All right. Now, in your personal details segment, you should, of course, cover your name, your address. These are your basic details, basically. Name, address, email ID, contact number, and your course and the year of study. Now, course, of course, if you're a law graduate, or if you have, or if you're studying law, it may be BBA LLB or a BA LLB or a BCom LLB, as the case may be. Year of study should be the current year that you're studying in, or if you're a graduate, then you should not have this column and you should just write a fresher. Now, the second part, as I explained, was about the academic performance or the educational qualification, as we call it. Now, in this, you should definitely mention about your class 10, class 12, and your college marks. So let me tell you how you should go about it. You should start from your college, then your class 12, and then your class 10. Okay, in the order of relevance and in the order of the most recent to the most latest. You should structure it in that sense. All right. Now, your average grade or percentage till whatever semester you have passed. Suppose you're a law student and you want to apply for internship in the 6th semester. So you should write your cumulative CGPA or cumulative percentage gained until 6th semester. All right. And your board, if you're a CBSE, if you were a CBSE candidate, then just write CBSE class 12, CBSE commerce with maths or whatever, science, and whatever percentage you've got. Area of interest, and sorry, similarly for the class 10 percentage as well. Now, area of interest. Now, this is a very tricky part of your resume. Now, area of interest should ideally mention 3 to 4 areas of academic interest as also of work interest. Now, let me give you an example. I may want to mention something like civil laws, all right, or arbitration laws, or criminal laws, so on and so forth. So just this goes on to show that these were the areas of interest which I have interest in academically, as well as I have interest when it comes to working, and when it comes to applying for a job. I'm looking for a job for these particular with these particular areas of interest in mind. Or if you're applying for an IP firm, then definitely you should have IP laws as a category under areas of interest. Similarly, if you're applying for a job or in taxation, so you should have areas of interest as tax laws, so on and so forth. So this changes basis the job you're applying for, as also your area of interest, what you really enjoy doing or what you really love to read about. Now, work experience. Of course, in this segment, you should mention about all your previous internships and key works or key assignments that you have done. Now, when I say all your previous internships, I don't mean to say that you should mention a list of say 10 to 12 internships. If you've done so many internships, mention 5 internships which are most important in the order of your preference, in the sense that you would want to highlight these internships to your prospective employer. Similarly, under those, you should mention 2 or 3 key assignments that you have worked upon, or 2 or 3 key areas that you worked on during the 1 month that you were interning at a particular place. Similarly, someone who has already worked at an organization should also mention about the work experience, which is post qualification work experience, right? Under that segment, you should mention about the work or the assignments that you have briefly, of course, briefly you have to mention about the work that you've undertaken in your previous organization, or the work you've done with your ex-employer. So briefly mention that. Now, co-curricular activities will include something like your research papers, your moot courts, your publications, your certificate courses, and sports, and so on and so forth. So you should ideally give 2 to 3 main co-curricular activities that you've been a part of during your college life. And suppose you've won a moot, so you should mention about that moot court. Suppose you went for a conference and you presented a paper, you should mention about that definitely. Suppose you're a sports enthusiast, you should mention about being a part of the cricket team and representing college at various levels in the cricket tournament, and so on and so forth. So you have to identify, or suppose you've done some certificate course in IP laws, or some certificate course in arbitration laws, or something which is very important and which you've done recently, you should definitely mention those also. So whatever you mention has to be it has to be taken into consideration that you have 2 to 3 pages to mention all that you want to mention. Now, how you mention is completely up to you, in the sense what you have to prioritize in your mind, what is most important to you, and you have to structure it accordingly and ensure that you do not really exceed the page limit ideally. If you feel that you're exceeding the page limit, so be it. At least write it and then see what all you can edit and what all you can sort of eliminate while you are reading and proofreading and editing your resume. Okay. Similarly, extracurricular activities will be about any competitions or any events that you've participated in from your academic curriculum or during your school life. Uh, Again, position of responsibilities, as I had briefly told you what this means, is about any role or responsibility that you have sort of being bestowed with, such as being a member of the placement cell, being a member of the sports cell, or being a member of the moot court association, or suppose you have done some sort of voluntary work, you've been associated with some NGO, or you've been associated with some social cause. All of that depends, so you can mention it here. So these are the components of a good resume that you should ideally have. Now let me show you quickly a sample resume, how it looks like. Yes. So if you see the sample that is in front of you on your screens right now, this starts from personal details, like I explained to you. Then you have your educational qualification. Again, it is from the order of most relevant till the last one. And in this situation, the person is also pursuing an additional degree from, or an additional diploma course from the Institute of Company Secretary of India. So the details are given here, and the level at which that person stands as on date. Now, as regards the work experience, the internship experience have been also briefly mentioned. If you look at this is mentioned in 4 points, and the person has also tried to mention the work. The duration is very important, of course, and the work profile, or the work that you have been given and you've performed briefly in 2 to 3 lines. You should ideally mention that. Similarly, co-curricular achievements have been mentioned, as I was explaining you about the article that was published or paper presented, or if the person has participated in any other competition or any other symposium, then those details are there. Moot court competitions have been highlighted. Now, of course, as a law student, as we have already seen in the first module, why moot courts are so important. So the idea here is to highlight moot court competitions, because yes, employers do focus on moot court competitions pretty much when it comes to a resume. If you have the bandwidth, you should ideally take moot court competitions as a separate heading and do mention them. So in this situation, moot court competitions and seminars have been mentioned in a separate heading. You can, if you want, if you think that the page limit is an issue, you can definitely sort of club all of this together. Now, you should also, after you have mention your organizational experience, you should also give details of references. 2 references ideally should be given. Now, references can be either your ex-professors, they can be your ex-employer, anybody, but you should write references after this before you close, and you should give their name and contact details. References is important because sometimes what happens is that your prospective employer would want to conduct a background check on you or a background due diligence on you. So in that situation, they can definitely contact or get in touch with the references that you've given. And before you write the name of your references, always let them know that you have included their name under the references segment. Okay. Now let me just tell you the advantages of a well-written resume. Why do you think it is so important to write it well and to articulate it and to format it and everything? Of course, this is the first impression before your prospective employer, and you know that the first impression is the last impression. So, of course, it is very important to sort of ensure that these 2 or 3 pages which are going to the employer before you actually meet him are a reflection, are a true reflection of how dedicated you are when it comes to presenting things well. And this, of course, gives a brief background or a brief description about who you are as a person, or what have your achievements been, or what have your credentials been. So, of course, it has to be framed in that manner that it communicates, or it properly explains the background you're coming from. Of course, resumes are not the sole basis for judging a candidate, but you should know that in any organization, ideally, the resume gets only 20 to 30 seconds with a prospective employer, because the fact that they are screening over hundreds of resumes for one position goes on to show that they are focusing and wanting the best to be hired for their organization. So, of course, the deal here is to crack that round and go to the personal interview round. So, hence, it is very important for you to present something which is, which gives an impression to the employer that yes, this candidate is a suitable candidate for my organization. And the other important factor that you should also keep in mind while drafting your resume or while preparing your resume is that you should highlight your unique skills. So always remember that an employer is looking for a perfect match for the organization, and always remember that you have to have something, something in addition or something extraordinary as against the candidates which are applying for that particular position, for the employer to specifically select your resume. So make sure that you highlight your unique skills. Make sure that the employer is engaged well enough to read your resume, has the inclination to read on your resume. Make sure that you have to present your resume in a manner that you come across as a perfect candidate for that organization, and you're a perfect match, so to say. Yes, so now just brief tips. We've already discussed this while I was explaining, but just brief tips. Uh, of course, contain your resume in a reasonable length. Now, your reasonable length can be 2 to 3 pages ideally. You should be very true and factually correct in whatever you're writing in your resume. Don't try and fool the employer. Don't write anything which you have not worked upon. Don't write any achievements which you genuinely don't have any evidence to substantiate the same. So don't write any of those. Uh, Also, obviously, keep the format in mind. Choose a format which, of course, is readable. It's properly, which properly highlights the key skills and competencies and achievements. And of course, your employment background should begin with your current job and work backwards. Like I said, when you talk of your work experience, it should be from your current to the latest. So the recent to the latest, basically. Work backwards. uh, Again, use a good font. You should not keep a very small font or a very large font. Ideally, check for all spellings and grammatical errors. Proofread it as many times as possible. Do not include any irrelevant information which is not suitable for the particular job. And yes, try and use bullet points, because that saves a lot of space in terms of your spacing, because you only have 2 to 3 pages. And always, as I said, avoid typographical errors and try and reread as many times as you can. And of course, ensure that you have a cover letter which accompanies your resume when you're applying for a prospective job. Now, we will definitely have a detailed discussion on how should you frame a cover letter, or how should you draft a cover letter, in our next lecture. But for now, I will be stopping your lecture here. And until then, I hope that you will be able to go through the content that has been uploaded on the website, and uh, you know try and see whether there are any doubts. If you do have any doubts, feel free to connect with me. And in our next lecture, we will discuss the importance of a cover letter. I will teach you how to draft a cover letter. I will also teach you how to draft a statement of purpose, which is very important, especially for potential LLM candidates or for people who want to apply for admissions abroad, for universities abroad. I will definitely be teaching you how to draft a statement of purpose and a cover letter in our classes to come in our subsequent lecture. And we will also be discussing how one should prepare for personal interviews, because that is very important. So I will be taking a class in my next class. I will be discussing some tips on that as well. Thank you so much. Happy viewing, and I hope you all stay safe and stay well. Thank you.